Good evening. This is the open meeting of the Palo Alto School Board on May 9th, 2023. The board met in closed session and voted 5-0 to approve student ID 953-37087 stipulated expulsion agreement. Can I get an approval on the agenda order?
I have a motion to approve the agenda order.
Second.
Student preferential board vote?
Aye.
Aye.
Colleagues, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Great, okay. We're going to start, I believe, with student board member reports. It's okay that they're long. There's a lot going on. Take your time and give it to us.
Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm Daniel. I'm the Gun Student Board Rep, and I'm here to summarize gun events for the past few weeks. Prom was on the 22nd, and it was held at the Exploratorium. Personally, I thought it was really fun, and a lot of people said the DJ was one of the best that we've ever had, so that was very. Graduation speech tryouts have also decided its senior graduation speakers, Gold, Jack, and you. So congrats to them. Prepared very full messages, so I'm personally looking forward to this. Global Cultures Week was last month a very good event. It had a very great turn. Each day during lunch, but the one that was the most popular was culture and country, handed out that basically represents away with a bag of treats, and third period was doing noises. Thing was held last week, and this week everyone has for all the tests, and you can definitely pay off towards the end of the year. Tomorrow, Gun will be holding SEC Festival during Prime. We'll be able to watch films made by other students and awards handed out to recognize talent and hard work. It will be emceed and hosted by teacher Mr. Gill and also fan favorite student, which is gonna be me. Afterwards, there will be an art gallery for people to display physical art projects like artworks and other sculptures. Twin Day, hosted by SEC, is also coming up. Activities for siblings will be available for anyone to join, but it's also available for people who don't have siblings, have like a best friend. There will be three-legged races, friendship quizzes, and more. More senior activities are also coming up, including Senior Ditch Day, where seniors will go to Half Moon Bay. And we also need to pick up graduation caps and gowns on Thursday, and also other graduation-related events. SEC training is also coming up in the next few weeks. Student leaders will be passing down legacy portfolios to upcoming members. Sports-wise, senior nights have mostly finished, including lacrosse, volleyball, badminton, and more. And that's it from me. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Daniel. All right, hello everyone, and I know there's a full house today, so if you don't know me, I am Johanna Sia, and I'm the Pali Board Rep. I'm glad to be here for my second to last meeting of the year. We concluded our Spring, Spirit, and Coachella combo week with more student performances back in April, including a student DJ performance, and we also showed our Pali Spirit on the last day with green and white, with seniors wearing camo. We also had our prom on Saturday, the 29th at San Francisco's City View. We had an incredible DJ that played all of our students' requests. We had a karaoke station, photo booths, food appetizers, and of course, the wonderful view of the SF skyline all aglow. Shout out to all of our ASB officers and Pali staff and admin that made such a memorable night possible. ASB also had Teacher Appreciation Week last week with a coffee serving last Monday, where teachers received coffee, bagels, individual messages, and little crochet stars from our Pali Crochet Club. In addition, we hosted a staff scavenger hunt where students had to guess which staff member from a poster of fun facts. Some fun facts included a teacher being attacked by an elephant before, a teacher who skied 42,485 vertical feet in April, and a teacher who once bought back their own stolen car at an auction, which is very unfortunate. ASB is also preparing for a field day on May 19th, as well as getting ready for next year's ASB, with current members writing legacy letters and planning for the ASB Officer Spring Retreat. We have also put out signups for our students to be link crew leaders and help out with leading our new student orientation in August. For Pali clubs, Rise Club Denim Day had their event on April 26th, and it was a success, with many students coming with their denim and showing their solidarity with sexual assault survivors. Altruism Club will be hosting a booth at the Pali Flea Market this Saturday, the 13th, selling prints, stickers, and keychains, all created by Pali students, and they're very adorable. And they're doing this to fundraise for the Muekwa Ohlone tribe and help them regain their federal recognition. Astronomy Club is hosting a primetime event tomorrow where a postdoc researcher at Stanford is coming to give a talk about galaxies and active galactic nuclei. Clubs also have the opportunity to charter their clubs early for the next school year for our Smarter Charter application process. Since it is May, the stress is, of course, rising as AP testing continues into this week and students are preparing for their finals. With the May season, ASB is planning Snack and Study, an after-school studying event, while our wellness team is hosting de-stress events over the next week. May also means it is once again senior season, with seniors having community college week and making their college decisions in April. Spring sports have hosted their senior nights as well, closing out the season soon. Senior elimination is also well and alive, as you can see, and I think we're down to around like the last 40-ish students. Senior Spirit Week will also be next week with dress-up days and our final spike ball tournament. We're also preparing for graduation with auditions for talent and grad speakers coming soon and cap and gown pickup tomorrow for those who bought it. Going into our arts department, theater is hosting One Acts, which are student-written and direct performances this weekend, and choirs hosted their spring concert on the 28th, which was a narrative choral concert where students sang along to The Story of Mu, which was an original animation. Pali Pep Band and Cheer and Dance marched in the Mayfete Parade last Saturday, along with Power Moves, which is Pali's weekly walking group, led by Ms. Philpoo, that helps spread the message about movement. For Pali Journalism, Inc., our literary magazine, released their latest issue in April, and Via Verde, our travel magazine, has returned after 4 years with their May issue covering Japan, New Zealand, and California. Our speech and debate team also attended the CHSSA California State Championships a few weeks ago, as well as our NSDA Last Chance qualifier on the last week of April, where 5 more students actually qualified to the Nationals tournament. So congrats to them. I also want to update that for our CAS testing, we have brought up our participation to 95.6% for ELA and 95% for math, which is absolutely wonderful. So amazing job to our admin, staff, and students once again. Going into a more serious topic, Pali also experienced a shooting threat in the last week of April, and classrooms went into shelter in place. I want to personally commend staff and admin for working through the situation swiftly, especially with the sensitive timing. I know a lot of students may still be feeling scared and confused, and many wanting more information and knowledge on how to react to such situations. All in all, I know that this was pretty distressing, and I know that all Pali students just want to be safe at school. I also want to touch on another ongoing issue that I know some Pali students are concerned about in the political community, and I know there are a lot of students here today, so thank you for coming. And this is about the change in course offering for multivariable calculus for next year. So, as a student, I definitely understand the frustrations that come with such a change, as well as a frustration is not being able to take the class the same way that has been before. But what I want to communicate in my board report to students and the community is that I, as a board rep, and I do not speak for the board, but I do know that, I hold the same student interest. I'm not for limiting such classes intentionally, nor am I attacking or ignoring students who are interested in this course or interested in higher learning math, and I know this has been an ongoing discussion. It has never been the case that I'm against higher math classes or math in general. I simply ask that students, community members, parents, before coming to their conclusions or speaking about it, do truly listen and be informed on the background of this issue and understand the fact that while it is not offered in the Pali course guide, it is still available at Foothill or community colleges, and that the board and staff are being truthful and have valid reasons to not offer this course in the course guide. I also invite students and the community members to see the resources we do have available to us, as they are far greater than that of other districts. PAUSD is actually quite privileged to have been able to offer this class for about 10 years, as well as have an amazing relationship with community colleges like Foothill. This relationship is something we should appreciate and also make an effort to keep. Additionally, we can also recognize the effect of this area's culture on this issue and recognize how college and academic competition may exacerbate the effects of this change. This message is not meant to invalidate, but to educate and hopefully increase awareness on why this change happened, and also what amazing opportunities PUSD already has for our students. So I ask that at the start of this board meeting, you start listening and approaching this issue and any issue with civility and understanding, starting with my board report today. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Austin, Superintendent's report.
All right. Before we jump into my brief report, I did ask administrative teams from both of our two high schools to be here with us tonight and to ask them to stand quickly as we can acknowledge them and their efforts on behalf of all of their students for hitting 95% testing this year, which is unprecedented. So thank you to the group. I also want to thank the PTA leadership at both schools who helped in this push, the students who pushed through also and showed it was possible. I think out of all of our accomplishments this year, well, not the most important, maybe the most unlikely. And so therefore, we're very happy for them. So thank you. As the year comes to a close, though, I want to express my gratitude to everyone who's contributed to creating an unforgettable experience for our students. And I just wanted to take our recent district art show for an example. It's a pleasure to see so many families come together, smiling, enjoying their evening. These memorable events are more the norm than the exception, and we're lucky to offer our kids a wide range of opportunities that many districts can only dream of. I'd also like to extend my thanks to the 100+ individuals who have participated in various ad hoc committees and district working groups that were new to us this year. These teams have tackled important topics such as special education services, student behavior, athletic funding, childcare, declining enrollment, and tonight you'll hear from our Committee on Choice Programs, along with others. Looking ahead, we plan to introduce new working groups and committees focused on areas like artificial intelligence, student stress, stakeholder communication, and parent education. Our upcoming parent education calendar has some potential to be quite exciting, and we anticipate collaborating with our PTA to make it a success. Finally, our June 6th agenda will address, among other things, dual enrollment and the recommendations put forth by the ad hoc committee that was already in place. This meeting will also provide an opportunity for staff to address any concerns or clarify misinformation, and we're looking forward to this discussion on June 6th. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to 2C, which is a report on the child development pathway.
We're going to start with Dr. Che.
Tonight, we want to celebrate the Poly Child Development Pathway and students and Ms. McDaniel. The program has won Hoffman Award recently. This program integrates many elements of our promise goals. It is an innovative program. Not only the program has a strong academic foundation, but also prepares students for high employability through NAFTRAC certification, and as well as a state-recognized permit through the Commission on Teaching Credentialing. I'm now going to turn it over to Ms. McDaniel and her students to share their experiences through the child development pathway.
Good evening, everyone. It's so lovely to be here and to see you all. I'm really excited to have my students speak, so I'll get through my bit quickly. But I'm so grateful to be able to teach this pathway and develop this pathway here. It's been life-changing for my career and how I approach teaching, because I think magic happens when you put students in a real-life situation and you give them the academic foundation to make it all come together. And I get to watch my high school students form relationships with our preschool and elementary students and see that learning happen. And it really does so much for their mental health. They will tell me that they just feel happier starting their day being present with these little 5-year-olds who run up and give them hugs, and they build that sense of agency and they know that they matter in this world. So that's been a really big impact. Secondly, I think we're doing a lot of great work around equity and diversity. I was lucky to be able to build the curriculum in my classes around anti-bias goals, and a lot of work coming out of our early childhood field. including NAEYC and their texts. And I know that that's really resonated with a lot of my students, and they'll speak about that. And I think we're really making headway. We have a very diverse population in my pathway that actually represents what our school looks like. And that's exciting for me. And I'm just really thrilled to be here and to continue this work, and really thank you for your support. And now I will turn it over to my students who will tell you what it really looks like.
Thank you so much. Hello, thank you so much for giving me and my classmates. Thank you so much for giving me and my classmates the opportunity to speak on our experience in the early childhood development pathway. My name is Christopher Owens. I'm a junior in the pathway. I'm in the first year of the pathway, that's ECD1. For those of you who are unfamiliar with the pathway, as Ms. McDaniel just mentioned, completing the full year of the pathway gives you an assistant teacher certification, which allows any ECD alumni to begin working as an assistant teacher and eventually towards their teacher certification. I cannot stress the importance of the work that early childhood educators around the world do enough, which is why this pathway is such a boon to our community, as are the ECD alumni, who leave the pathway with not only their certification, but also a wealth of knowledge and armed with the experience to become lifelong advocates for children wherever they go. Even if they don't become early childhood educators, being educated in early childhood is relevant for everyone. Knowing how to interact with and properly nurture children is a critical life skill for all adults, but especially anyone looking to foster community health and the health and the well-being of the coming generations. Early childhood educator or not, parent or not, alumni of the ECD pathway will help advocate for developmentally appropriate practices and curriculum wherever they go in life, which is why we're so lucky to have Mrs. McDaniel and the pathway here at PALI. Thank you so much.
Hi, I'm Katie McCluskey. I'm a senior in the pathway, and I've done it for 3 years. I'm now in ECD2. My first year in the pathway was online, so although it was sad not to be able to go into the preschools in person, we were really able to focus on the academic aspects of the class, learning about the psychological and psychological development and the physical development of children before going into the classroom. And I think it was essential to learn these theories of Vygotsky, Piaget, Erikson, Montessori, and many other figures in developmental psychology in order to be able to work effectively and developmentally appropriately in the classroom. Understanding the capabilities of these children and understanding where they should be in their developmental milestones really allows us to help them in a way that will bring them forward and have them where they should be at that time. The academic rigor of a dual enrollment program allows us to achieve this, and it keeps us focused on the interacting factors of development, education, and allow us to gain the assistant teaching credential that Chris was talking about after just a few years in the pathway. And of course, the best part of the program is working in the classrooms, planning lessons, and being able to watch these children grow throughout the year. And I think, as Ms. McDaniel touched on, developing a sense of agency, we know that we really make an impact on these children as we see how they grow and what they learn throughout the whole year, working in teen time and in their classrooms. Thank you.
I'm Eliana. I'm part of the Child Development Pathway. And one thing that I'd like to speak on that's been really influential for me in my time in the pathway is learning about anti-bias education. So I've known that I wanted to be a teacher for a while, and when I found out about this pathway, I was so incredibly excited to get started in it. But one thing that I wasn't expecting was learning about anti-bias education, because I wasn't aware of all of these biases that I had internalized and that other people around me had as well. And learning about it has had such a significant impact on how I interact with others. This comes into play in the 5th grade classroom, where I'm having real discussions with the students addressing issues such as racism or sexism in the classroom directly. It's also come into play in some of my other classes, like I was inspired to write a 10-page research paper in my English class about anti-bias education. And I've shared this knowledge that I've gotten about directly addressing biases with peers and classmates and friends and family, and that's really had a direct impact on those people as well. I told my tutor about it, and she's been a tutor for over 5 years with lots of students, and she told me that it completely changed the way that she was thinking about how she addresses bias when her students bring it up. So this has been something that has been so important for me to learn about, not only, but also something that I think everyone should be learning about.
Thank you so much. I don't know if my colleagues have any comments, or yes? Okay, all right, go ahead.
I just want to first congratulate our new system here. I just want to first congratulate the entire team, and I'm very much looking forward to celebrating with all of you tomorrow night at the Hoffman Awards. So such a well-deserved award for this pathway. And I know many people obviously have contributed to its success, but I did want to specifically recognize you, Ms. McDaniel, tonight, because this pathway exists because of you. It's your passion and your commitment and your vision that were instrumental to its creation and are the reason that it's so popular and so beloved by your students. Creating pathways for students is one thing, but creating a pathway where they thrive and find joy and agency is quite another. So thank you for everything that you do. I guess my only complaint is that there aren't two of you, because hearing how wonderful this is and knowing how much it benefits our student and how much demand there is for it just makes me frustrated and saddened that we can't offer this opportunity to students at Gunn. So, exactly. So Dr. Austin mentioned that we're going to be talking about dual enrollment at our June 6th meeting, and I'm looking forward to that conversation, because I think that I'd like to talk about everything that's going on at the state level and what we can do here to further increase opportunities for students, because I don't think we need any more evidence than what we've heard tonight to really see how important valuable innovations like this are and how valuable they can be to our students. So thank you.
I wanted to thank you personally, but also my children thank you. You have made an impact on their lives. They always look forward to your visits. They tell me about it. Sometimes they don't tell me that much about school, but if it's a day that you visit, they share everything. And I just want to thank you because you've made an impact on their lives and many other children's lives.
Okay, just want to echo, it sounds a little redundant, but thank you. Yeah, I think you might have been one of the first teachers I ever met when I joined the board. And just seeing what you have created through your passion and through you really believing this is something that our students will benefit from, and not just our high school students, but our little ones for teen time and when they visit the classrooms. Also, given that the state and the country are going towards expanding universal preschool and pre-K and 3K and everything else, obviously there's going to be more of a need for this. So you're also, I think, filling a professional need. So it is really exciting to see you and all of us recognized at the Hoffman Awards for the work that you're doing. And to the students, thank you for participating and living it, right? Like, she designed this thing that you guys went, oh wow, this really, yeah, I get this. This is exciting. I see why this class is here. I'm going to keep taking these classes. And I think it benefits our entire community. So thank you to all of you. It's really a pleasure. Okay, I think we are ready for open forum. I think there are a lot of people signed up. As usual, we start with our students as best as we can. So if it is obvious here that you are a student, if you registered yes, you are a student, we will call you first to the best of our ability and then move on to the other speakers. As I stated last time, I'm not going to attempt to go between in-person and Zoom because often I'm finding that information is not accurate. Either someone changed their mind about whether they were going to come in person, so it's not really helpful to worry about that. Just want to reiterate, I think a lot of speakers are here to talk about multivariable calculus, which is lovely. We welcome your comments. As you probably know, we are limited in how much we can respond here because it is not agendized right now. And as Dr. Austin noted in his superintendent's update, we will be talking about dual enrollment in the first June meeting. We've had a dual enrollment ad hoc committee that will be coming back to report to us. And I think that I expect that'll be a place where we can continue conversation about dual enrollment, single enrollment, what that means, what we think the state is saying, what we are focused on. So I encourage people to tune in then. So because there are about 30 comments, that's a minute each, we are going to start with students, as I said. Our first 3 students are Benjamin Vakil, Ezra Furtado, and Luca. You're gonna have to tell me when you come up. I'm gonna say Maniloch. Are these, did I skip the first ones? Okay, well, I've called your names, so I'm gonna have you 3 come up first and I'll go back up to the top. So Benjamin, then Ezra, then Luca.
Thank you, board, for allowing me to speak tonight. I do not plan on going into any STEM field, yet just yesterday, as a junior, I sat for the AP Calculus BC exam, despite not being placed in that class this year. Not because I felt pressure to, I didn't, but because I love math. I want to continue my math education at PAUSD so I can collaborate with, challenge, and be challenged by my friends. Right now, unfortunately, there is no class where I can do that. I ask, why is that? Dr. Austin mentioned ad hoc committees in his report tonight and combating misinformation. Undoubtedly, some parents tonight will also bring up combating misinformation. How do you know what is misinformation and what is not misinformation if you don't talk to students? To rectify this, you need to put us first. We need to be listened to. This conflict over grade school mathematics is terrible and it must end. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you for keeping it to a minute. Ezra, and then Luca, and then Miles. Hua.
Do I just start whenever?
Yep.
Right. Hi, everyone. First of all, I want to thank the board and the district for addressing issues in the community and making an attempt to fix them. I'm here to suggest some solutions for possible credentialing issues that the district might have in offering the multivariable calculus and linear algebra classes during the school day next year. One of the issues cited was that the professor needs to have a high school teaching credential. This is not true, as the district does not need to claim funding, apportionment, or instructional minutes for the class. However, if the district does want to claim any of these things, a double staffing model is presented on the CDE dual enrollment website. A credentialed teacher just needs to be present at the site along with the Foothill instructor. The reason why claiming instructional minutes is not necessary is because there are lower instructional minute requirements, 180 minutes total per day as calculated by an average over 2 days, for transfer credit students, according to the California Education Codes. I hope that the district will look into these solutions. Thank you.
Thank you. Luca, then Miles, and then Alexi.
Hi, my name is Luca. I want to thank the board for giving me this chance to give my experience with multivariable calculus. So to start off, me and many others would have taken multivar no matter if it was offered through the school district directly or not. However, taking it through Pali directly has allowed the professor to do many things that would not have been possible without an official dual enrollment class. So our class is made of only gun and Pali kids, and the official starting time of the class was really close to when school ended. This made it very difficult for some people, including me, to get home safely at the start of class. Because this affected a significant number of students, the professor was able to change the class start time, allowing students to get home safely without drastically changing how they got to school. Without having multivar as a dual enrollment course, this would not have been possible, as not all of the kids would have been gun and Pali kids. Additionally, because we're all high school students, when a big event such as AP testing affect most of us, the professor is able to move tests to a later date to allow us to focus on AP testing. So we were supposed to have a test last week in the middle of AP season. However, she was able to move it so to lower stress and to allow us to study more.
Thank you. Next we have Miles, then Alexi, and then Julian Hong.
I would like to thank the board for giving me this time to speak. I am here to speak about the issue of multivariable calculus and linear algebra being removed. Your constituents have told you time and time again about the lack of basis for the removal of this course. They've told you about how much the class benefits them and how the removal of the class hinders their ability to learn. As a student who got waitlisted from this very class last year, I was stuck taking an unengaging and boring online AP statistics class. This class made it difficult to learn the materials properly, as well as cut into my after-school time, giving me less time to do so many other things. Regardless of if we as students can find other courses, this is not a good solution. This is no small issue. Remember that a recent poll found a large portion of students would be interested in taking this class. Please listen to the students and bring the course back. Thank you.
Thank you. Alexi, then Julian, and then Leah Kwan.
I would like to start by thanking the board and Dr. Austin for your hard work on this issue. Thank you. But I am disappointed. Like so many others, my family first came to this district in search of better education, better resources, better policies. And yet we lag behind our neighbors in a subject we once prided ourselves in excelling in, math. We spend countless hours discussing the issue of declining enrollment, and yet we fail to address the needs of over 100 current freshmen and countless more upperclassmen. Can you blame them for seeking a better education elsewhere? You say the issue is conflated. Rather than offering explanations, you hide. You decline requests to agendize this item, and you spontaneously avoid speaker cards submitted prior to today. You hide behind mysterious laws and credentialing issues, yet even your own correspondent on dual enrollment says that you can offer the course. I urge you to negotiate with us, communicate with us. We can figure this out together. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Austin, did we void cards? Did we void speaker cards? Did we erase speaker cards from this list?
No, I think what he's referring to is that the signups for speakers start at 4:30 now, as we announced at our last meeting.
Right.
And the Google form was accidentally open for a brief amount of time.
Oh.
And there were people that had signed up on that, and those were voided out. That is accurate.
Okay, okay.
But not for the purposes shared. It was for the purpose I just.
Okay. And from
It's an
now on, it'll
accident.
be 4:30 on the day of the meeting.
Yes, as we had announced earlier, it was just a mistake. We thought we had it, and we didn't.
Okay, thank you for clarifying. Julian Hung, hello.
Hi, I'm Julian. I'm the incoming ASB president at Pali. And today, amidst the sea of negativity, I want to come today and thank the board for all the work you do. I cover the board for the Campanelli, and over the past year, I've seen a lot of good work being done. 7% raises for teachers, 29 new housing units, and even metal milk dispensers in elementary schools. The board is doing good work, and yet we don't acknowledge it every single day. We highlight it when things go wrong, and we don't address it when things go right. And to the community, when I watch board meetings, too often I see them devolve into personal attacks on the board members. X and X hates math. That is not the standard we should be setting. Respect and civility should be the norm, not an aspiration for us to reach. We must do better as a community and work together, because it's not us versus them. We're community for a reason. Thank you.
Thank you, Julian. Wait, I'm going to find my next person. I think I said Leah Kwan.
So I'd like to thank the board first and foremost for, as Julian's outlined prior, all the good work you guys have been doing throughout this year. So I'm also here to speak on the concept of multivariable math, but beyond that, the school district and education in general. Miriam, we've seen throughout this board meeting and the last one where around 50 students spoke up about the cancellation of multivariable math, a sea of people who want to learn. The definition of a school from Oxford Languages is an institute to educate. And yet, throughout the past few years, middle school maths have been delayed, outside AP courses are being now removed from our GPA, and now multivariable calculus is being canceled, effectively punishing, and as people have outlined prior, making it harder for students who want to learn. The school should prioritize learning above all else, as that should be its prerogative. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, that's all of our students. If you are a student and you are signed up here and I did not call you, make yourself known if you want to speak first. Okay. I just wanted to start out, I have two commenters, one on Zoom and one in person, that requested to speak on the closed session item that happened at 6 o'clock, and I suspect it was a mistake. They were not here for that opportunity to comment, so I just want to check and see if they meant to sign up for open forum. So the first one is Sherazad Masood on Zoom. Is that a person that is on Zoom and that was hoping to speak to?
Yes, I meant, hello, hi, I meant to speak on the open forum.
Great.
That was a mistake.
Okay, why don't you take a minute right now? Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for your time. I'm a Stanford West resident, and this is to do with the school bus issue. I know the people who initially signed up for the intent form were able to register their children. Unfortunately, I missed the email. I have 3 kids who will be at 3 different schools next year. And currently I'm struggling to get them to school. And next year we'll have different start times, different dismissal times, and I don't know how I'm going to cope. So until we can guarantee all Stanford West kids have a spot on school buses, I don't know how we're going to guarantee that. So thank you for considering what I have to say, and thank you for your time.
Thank you. Dr. Austin, someone can connect with that person.
If we have the contact information, it's not always complete when they submit, then we'll reach out.
Great.
And if not, if she's still listening, she can reach out to any of us and we will get her to the right person.
Great, thank you. Melanie Curtis in person, that was also a closed session item. Yes, why don't you come take a minute right now?
My name is Melanie, and I'm here today to speak about the math placement policy. I have 2 students in the Palo Alto schools. I'm a minority woman who grew up in a low-income household, and I wanted to share my story. I graduated from Milpitas High in '97 and went to UCLA, and I earned a degree in mathematics. It allowed me to achieve my dream, and now I work for a large company building products that change the world. But what I'm trying to say firsthand is that I know the challenges that students from marginalized communities face. In STEM, when I was in high school, I realized I wasn't going to hit calculus by senior year, which was critical to pursuing a STEM career. And I had to take after-school trigonometry to get to calculus by my senior year. What is different this time is I didn't have to get permission or take tests to get to the next math course. A passing grade was all that was required to get to the next course. If I had to jump through hoops, it would have made it much more difficult for me and made my math degree pretty much impossible. The math lawsuit is about ensuring that all students have access to the same opportunities regardless of their background.
Thank you.
I urge the board to reconsider its placement policies.
Thank you. Richard Offspring. Richard Offspring on Zoom.
Yeah, hi, do you hear me?
Yes, let me just, before you get started, after that will be Satomi and then Avery Wong.
So the cancellation of multivariable calculus is straight out of Hans Christian Andersen's The Emperor's New Clothes. The school board, i.e. the vain emperor, is being swindled by Don Austin, and the school administration is parading a bunch of empty and meaningless excuses. Unlike what the administration is telling you, the students, multivariable calculus is not canceled because a teacher passed away. It is not canceled because of lack of credentialed teachers, as the Department of Education supports the current credentialing level. It is not canceled because it is dual credit, because it's a single credit, or what's better called a dual enrollment class. It is not canceled because there are no instructors, as there's a wonderful community college teacher who wants to lecture at both Pali and Gunn. It is only canceled because of a foolish and consistent anti-math sentiment by the administration. And like in the Andersen fairy tale, the people, i.e. the students, know this. Thank you.
Satomi Okazaki, Avery Wong, and Brian Conrad.
Thank you to the board. There were 60 students this school year who were enrolled in multivariable calculus, and there were 15 to 20 more who were denied enrollment because of the lottery. There's almost 100 current 9th graders who are on track to take these classes by their senior year. So this affects 10% of the student population. So before the meeting, we sent you an open letter from the community. Almost 400 people have signed this letter. When this district said that these classes could not be offered because of credentialing issues, district families asked for documentation. What we were given did not support district claims. Families reached out to the California Department of Education, who confirmed in writing multiple times that California Ed Code is permissive and agreed that the college instructor does not need high school teaching credentials to teach at the high schools during the school day. We have shared this written documentation with the district and the board. We respectfully request that the board do its job and hold the administration accountable. We deserve an administration that is honest and transparent. These are the schools a partial list of schools that are offering the courses in the Bay Area.
And I know we did receive that. Thank you for sending that. Avery Wong, Brian Conrad, and Lily Hugh.
All right, so regarding the California Department of Education regulations around offering dual enrollment advanced math on campus, there is no wild west of contradictions or confusion if you read the CDE FAQ correctly. There's a sentence in that FAQ that you keep leaving out the qualifier in the sentence that is for the purpose of apportionment. The high school credentialing does not apply because PAUSD does not claim apportionment. Foothill teaches it for free on campus, and the state reimburses them. And again, we have confirmed our understanding multiple times with the Department of Education. And each time we get the same answer. Despite repeated explanations to the administration, you keep giving us the same incorrect information, cherry picking words out of a sentence. Right, so if you read the referenced CTC page and correctly read the CDE page, there is no contradiction. Thank you.
Thank you. Brian Conrad, Lily Hugh, and Vidya Narayanan.
So as I mentioned in my comments at the April 18th board meeting, I'm a professor of mathematics at Stanford and the director of undergraduate studies in math at Stanford. Several hours after my earlier comments at the previous meeting, in which I highlighted the vast significance of multivariable calculus and linear algebra to contemporary life and secure jobs of the future, I was assured by a board member that, quote, pretty much everyone would like to be able to offer the class. There's really no disagreement. The issue is a qualified instructor to teach it. That was very reassuring to hear. The name of a qualified and willing instructor was found by parents and brought to the board's attention a week ago. So we'd like to all hear what action the board is taking on this. The school year is ending on June 1st. What is the board doing to resolve this matter before time runs out? The many students with a passion for mathematical knowledge deserve a continuation of the district's longstanding tradition of offering multivariable calculus and linear algebra on campus. Thank you.
Thank you. Lily Hugh, Vidya Narayan, and then Boris Senderson.
Can you hear me all right?
Yes, we can.
Thank you. On behalf of families living at Stanford West, I want to thank you very much to the district and to the board for listening to us and for taking seriously our need for school buses. According to industry standard, California school districts provide school buses for families living more than 2 miles away from school. And indeed, we are driving our children to Fletcher and Gunn. It's about 5.3 miles each way, 4 times a day. We then wait in the car line, which altogether takes about 2 hours total. Most families do not have the privilege of the time or flexibility to do this, nor the gas money. It has taken a mental health toll on our families and causing additional traffic on the road as well. I'm sharing this because I'm so very grateful to the district for reinstating the school bus for this coming school year. And I just want to finally note that please provide enough school buses to make sure all students who need it will get a spot. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Vidya, and then Boris, and then Stephen Davis.
From your protocol document, the board and the superintendent will keep learning and achievement for each and every student as a primary focus. Your number 3 states operate openly with trust and integrity. Respectfully, when it comes to MVC issue in PAUSD, you have violated the protocol on both counts. I understand this issue is not in the agenda today, and it's not in the one that's following before the school ends as well. And that is one of the violations of your protocol to be open and trustworthy. Again, respectfully, I urge you to read the open letter signed by 400 of us very, very thoroughly. Engage with us and let's problem solve. We send people to dark places in the universe, and this is not rocket science. Your mission and our mission are one and the same, to keep learning and achievement for each and every student as the primary focus. Let's do our job. Thank you.
Thank you. Boris, Stephen Davis, Sudeshna.
Dr. Austin and honorable members of the board. My name is Boris Sanderson, and I have two daughters at Poly, one of them who is on track to take multivariable calculus as a senior. This unilateral and abrupt policy change to cancel dual enrollment is wrong and will likely result in many eligible students unable to take math class during their senior year. At the minimum, the change should be introduced gradually with a grandfather provision. The policy seems especially misguided given the district's May 4th email to the parents of rising ninth graders, offering them a chance to take geometry during the summer, which would land them in multivariable calculus by the 12th grade. With the district's declining enrollment, I appeal to your self-interest. Every year at back-to-school nights, the teachers thank Partners in Education and urge parents' donations. If we are indeed your partners, then treat us as such. Let's sit down and figure out a solution. Thank you.
Thank you. Stephen Davis, Sudeshna Ra, and Edith Cohen.
While it is great seeing so many students and parents here fighting for access to higher mathematics, I'm here to ask for PAUSD, the school district, to bother to teach my son to add. Did you know that there are around 60 to 90 specific Common Core standards for each grade in elementary school, and that those get turned into 30 to 40 criteria reported into a standard report card? PAUSD has decided that my son doesn't get a proper report card, and the district has proposed just 3 Common Core standards in his IEP. 3 out of 60 to 90 standards. You aren't even trying to provide a real education. Basically, Palo Alto has put my son on a no high school diploma track starting last year in 2nd grade. This is the opposite of what is supposed to be happening in California, with the legislatures calling for the alternative pathways to a high school diploma. Palo Alto needs to change course to meet these goals and do what is right for students who meet the most challenges. Thank you.
Thank you. Sudeshna, Edith Cohen, Kaylee Hua.
Hi, I'm Sudeshna Raha, mom of Ishani, class of 2021, and Ronnie, current sophomore. My family values education, and we have a deep interest in making sure Palo Alto schools can be the best for our children. I'm here to talk about the MVC issue. However, I think this issue has much bigger implications for our community, so I wanted to address those. Some of these have been touched on by the parents before. Number 1, honesty and transparency. Dr. Austin has stated points regarding MVC in board meetings that are not true. This behavior should worry all parents, because while it may be aimed at a math issue today, that does not mean false statements won't be used in another case tomorrow. Respected board, I believe you were also given the above emails refuting Dr. Austin's claims. I ask you to investigate the matter. Number 3, this issue is purely personal, as I can only speak for my family. My husband and I immigrated from India in our 20s on the strength of a good education. We do not have the skin color or last name.
I'm sorry, your time is up.
To have a legacy or privilege.
Please send us the rest of your comments at board at PAUSD.
Thank you.
Like
I would request you not to take this away from our kids.
Thank you. Edith Cohen, Kaylee Hua, and Ben Cohen Wong.
Hello, can you hear me?
We can.
Okay, dear PAUSD leadership, this is to urge you to reinstate post-AP calculus math in person on site during regular class period for our many high school students that need these courses. All explanations and reasons you gave for not doing so have been debunked. Parents identified a community college teacher that teaches at another high school and can do this. This is the most equitable way forward that is handed to you on a silver plate. Please take it. And well beyond math, I have grave concerns with the conduct. What leadership example you're giving to the future citizens you're trusted to educate? How can we ask them to be honest and respectful and contribute to a society where all can thrive? When the example you give is dishonesty, rules made up on the go, words that have no meaning, false dichotomies that sow divisiveness, and mistakes being doubled down on. Disrespect, silencing, and betrayal of those you were elected or hired to serve.
Time. Sorry. Your time is up. Please send the rest of your comments to board@pausd.org. Next, Kaylee Hua in person, and then Ben Cohen-Wong, and then Allison Risen.
Hi, everyone. I'm Kaylee. I'm a high school student. I attended Palo Alto High School in the first half of my 9th grade year, and I'm here to speak about multivariable calculus. I'm currently a senior at Proof School. It's a math school in San Francisco. I made the conscious decision to transfer from the PAUSD school district to a math school because I would not have enough courses to fill 4 years of education here. And I'm sure that is an issue that many students here are facing these days. I took multivariable as a 10th grader online during COVID, and I took linear algebra in 11th grade in person. And I cannot stress how nice having an in-person math class was. Having these higher level math classes available to me and in person allows me to learn much better and apply these concepts to other math classes and other science classes I've taken. They've been useful to me in my robotics team and my research done for neuroscience, and that is an opportunity that I've had that not every single student can take. Not all of these students can transfer to San Francisco just to pursue higher math. So I urge you to offer these classes to them. Thank you.
Ben Cohen-Wong, Allison Rosen, Star Teach Out.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Cool. So yeah, I graduated from Pali in 2016, and I'm currently a PhD student studying computer science. I really enjoyed math growing up, and I love the work that I do as a PhD student, and I feel really lucky that I get to do what I do. And yeah, I want to emphasize that I think having access to challenging classes and great teachers throughout middle and high school was really instrumental to me getting there, both in helping me identify what I want to do and in preparing me for it. And yeah, I think that's something that not a lot of people have commented on in terms of this like MVC issue, is that I recognize that academic stress is a big problem in PAUSD, and maybe like part of the MVC cancellation is motivated by this. And on a personal note, like I do find it deeply unfortunate that many students in PAUSD are pushed to do things for the sake of getting into a good college, rather than being pushed to progress at stuff that they enjoy. But that said, restricting access of students to courses aligned with their readiness levels, in this case, by not making enough of an effort to keep multivariable calculus around, just isn't reasonable.
Okay,
I think that we
time is up. Thank you for your comments. Allison Rosen, Star Teach Out, Lillian Lee.
Yeah, I'm in person, sorry.
That's okay. This is why I don't do this anymore.
Yeah.
So just in order.
Yeah. The pandemic is over, and it's time to bring multivariable calculus and linear algebra out of the Zoom room. It doesn't take a PhD in math education to understand that a math class more advanced than BC calculus is not well served by remote education. Multiple surrounding public schools are offering this class in person, and PAUSD has done this in the past. PAUSD students that aspire to enter engineering colleges are competing with those other students, and acceptance rates into these engineering schools are in the single digits. These PAUSD students must have 4 years of advanced math, and this class is their only serious option. We need action. We have a professor who's willing and available to teach in person and at Pali and Gunn, and she's on the faculty of 2 community colleges and teaches at a solid nearby public school. By holding back the students who want this class, you hurt aspiring engineering students and diminish the
Thank you, Ms. Rosen. You could send the rest of your comments to us. Star Teach Out, Lillian Lee, Eileen Kim.
Good evening. Firstly, I want to thank Dr. Austin for such a speedy, safety-related communication following the 2 events at Pali and Cubberley last week. They were really appreciated, as you can well imagine. Secondly, about communication, every board agenda I noticed recently includes item 9, board operations with subcategory A, correspondence. Our city council and many of its commissions follow a protocol where all emails are automatically included in the board packet for the community to educate themselves on the issues. And just because communication and transparency are so important, I urge our board to do the same rather than make parents request it. And then lastly, it does not impact our high school junior, but I do think that the multivariable issue should go on the agenda sooner rather than later. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Lillian Lee, Eileen Kim, Nancy Carbajal. Lillian Lee.
Hello. Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm here to speak about the removal of multivariable calculus and linear algebra from our high schools. I understand or learned that the latest response from the school district is that you haven't been able to find a credentialed teacher who can teach these classes. However, I've heard, and as we have heard just now, that a few parents have found a credentialed teacher who is very capable of teaching these classes and is willing to teach on campus during school hours. I'm wondering if these candidates have been considered. If these math classes are removed from PAUSD, our kids will have to take those classes at Foothill during the evenings, which interferes with many other school activities such as sports and clubs. And our kids will be forced to choose one over the other. Do you want that to happen? Also, because priority is given to Foothill students, our kids might not be able to get into these classes or take these classes with their friends.
Thank you, Ms. Lee. You can send us the rest of your comments, board@pausd.org. We read them all.
Thank you.
Thank you. Eileen Kim and Nancy Carbajal.
The board voted to permit city employee students to attend our district and stay within our district unless they stop working for the city. Are these the direct children? What about the children who are twice removed from their uncle or grandparent, but get adopted so they can attend our schools? Who will monitor abuse of this policy that allows up to 13 years of attendance here? 2019, when Stanford wanted to increase enrollment of children into our schools, there was an outcry because Stanford would only pay $6,000 per student per year at the $21,000 per student per year that it costs. That was 4 years ago. How short-sighted is this solution when our city formally adopted plans today to build more than 6,000 more dwelling units in the next 8 years? This doesn't even include the fact that ADU permits issued yearly by our city are increasing exponentially. So with this fiscally irresponsible decision that doesn't serve the current students of our district, nor does it honor the fiduciary trust Palo Alto residents and taxpayers have placed on our board, who will take responsibility when in a few years, mark my words with a felt tip pen, class sizes balloon out and students overflow out of their classrooms when there's not enough space in middle school.
Thank you, Ms. Kim. Last speaker is Nancy Carbajal. It says on Zoom, Nancy Carbajal. Doesn't look like she's there. Let's just wait 1 second because she's the last speaker. And so if we move past, there is no chance to come back. So you don't see anyone? Nancy, if you are there, like raise your hand or something on our Zoom so we know. Okay, send your comments to board@pausd.org, please. Thank you. As you know, there are very few things, as I said before, that we can comment on this right now. We will be talking about it in 2 board meetings. I think that one of the things that just I personally have concerns about is the narrative that it's canceled. And I understand that it is not a PAUSD class right now, but Foothill is offering it in the exact same way that it's been offered for the past decade, more recently over Zoom, before that in person after school, or online after school, or asynchronously after school. They have told us that's what they are offering. So I understand that it won't be on transcript. I understand that students have to make decisions about after school, but our recent history in the past decade has not been it during the school day. There are lots of reasons for that I think we will talk about in 2 meetings. But I just want to correct it's been canceled. I believe that students will have the opportunity to take it in the exact same way they've been taking it for the past decade. So I look forward to continuing the conversation in a few weeks.
Can I say one quick thing?
Yep.
I just wanted to, this is obviously not agendized, so I'm not going to speak about multivariable calculus. But I do want to thank everybody who showed up and signed up to speak, because, we hear you. We know that people are upset about this. We know people really care about it. We know people really value math in general and this course in particular. So I thank you. Thanks for showing up and making sure your voices are heard. And I think we hear you. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, moving on to item 4A. Oh, well, actually 4 altogether is the approval of the consent calendar. These items are approved in one vote unless a board member or community member requests to pull one off the agenda. Do I have a motion to approve them? Is it something that's going to impact the vote? One option is to just vote and then make a comment?
yes.
Okay, great.
I'm. So moved. Oh, go ahead.
So moved?
Second.
Second. Okay, do we, are there any? Discussion, sure.
I just want to take the time here to recognize all the Spence in.
So I hate to interrupt you for this, but we are going to call Alva up right after we take our vote.
I just wanted to make sure, sorry, I wanted to make sure she was being recognized.
I should have started with that. If it has to do with Ms. Spence, we will be hearing from her momentarily. But in the meantime, let's approve and move from there. So thank you. So I have a motion and a second. Student board reps, do you have a preferential board vote?
Aye.
Aye. Colleagues, all those in favor? Aye. Great. Okay, we have approved the consent calendar, and now can we move to Ms. Spence?
Should we technically approve it without E?
Yes, we're going to bring up Ms. Spence for just a moment. Yes, we're going to bring up Ms. Spence. Now, while she's coming up, I do just want to share with everyone, Alva is such a part of our school district that for my first 4 years, I thought she was our employee. Seriously, I did not know, even though people told me. And that's what a piece of the fabric of our school district she has been, and we're super excited to actually make it official finally. It's probably overdue, but Alva, we're just so happy to have you and everything you've put in the last 28 years for our school district. You've put in your time, I think, so welcome and thank you.
Thank you so much. Good evening, school board members, Dr. Austin, PAUSD admin, the community. After 28 years, it's so exciting to be a part of the family and look through a different lens in a different way, but bring so much experience and knowledge of this department along with me. As Ms. Chow said to me in our evaluations last week, it is rare that you begin a job and not really have a learning curve in that way. Not that I don't have to build relationships. There are always new students, new clubs, new staff to build relationships with, but the foundation is there. And I am just so excited to be able to help steer this program into the future with all of the wonderful support team that I will have available. The things that are coming, the new kitchens that are coming, the chef manager that is coming. We have such an opportunity, and I'm so thankful and grateful for your faith in me to be the person to take that role and move forward with it. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Thank you. I'm going to let Ms. Siegel start her comments because she started this off before.
I just wanted to thank you for all you do for our district, for our students. And I wanted to encourage the community. There was a wonderful video that was made by a Pali student, Morgan Greenlaw, that goes behind the scenes of our nutrition services program. I watched it twice. I had my students watch it. And they said, but Mommy, 1 million? That can't be the number. But no, you provide over 1 million meals each year. So I just wanted to thank you for all you do.
Thank you.
And encourage the community to watch the video because it's really inspiring and thought-provoking. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. You were actually one of my first meetings when I became a board member, I remember, and we talked at length. People told me that Alva didn't work for the district, so I knew, unlike Dr. Austin, I just didn't believe them. And for the last 5 years, I didn't believe them because you are such a part of this district. So, welcome, but not so much. And I want to also highlight that we talk about the importance of nutrition services And we talked about the importance of nutrition services during COVID. We never, I think, so much connected the dots, but just to remind folks, Alva, you were the person, and we were getting meals to kids even when schools were closed, and that was so critical. And so, we discussed it back when schools were closed, but I just want to raise it again here because that's part of your legacy. So, thanks.
No pressure, but.
Yeah, no, I just want to quickly say I have a sophomore at Pali, and Ms. DeBrance and I are always laughing about how our kids have no idea what the board does. Like, she asked me the stupidest questions, and I'm like, I've literally been doing this for 2.5 years. How could you not know? And one of the things she asked me recently was over text, do you have anything to do with the food? And I was like, no, but I know who does. and after that, because it's sort of, there's some word about like reticular activation or something. Once she asked me that question, it was like every email I was getting, there was something about nutrition services, and I just kept sending her blurbs, and she's like, okay. So, but it was cool to be able to have a face that I could send to her and to know when I said, oh yeah, we're on this, that we're really on it. And that was because of you. So thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Feel exactly the same. I mean, I don't want to repeat all, but there are many ways that you and I have interacted over the years, not the least of which is that our sustainability committee meetings, as busy as you are, Ms. Spence, you show up there to talk about what we can use that's reusable, what we can use that's compostable, how we can reduce waste, how we can help reduce food waste, how we can reduce trash waste. Really just always thinking about what is best for our students, for our district, for our dollars, for all of it. Also, every single time, as soon as we were able to start offering food to all students, and the demand went way up, and we were still in a supply chain crisis, we now had this increase in need and this decrease in availability. You worked your tail off to get what we could do. And as parents would ask questions and say, I'm concerned, is this nutritious enough? I don't know if our meals are what they could be. Any time I sent someone to you, you offered to meet with them, you met with them, you gave parents tours. I'm sure you still do it. And I have never had a parent come back to me and say, I met with Ms. Spence and I'm still not satisfied, ever. So I don't know how you do it, but thank you for all of your work and your commitment. And I'm really excited to continue this partnership and now have someone else coming, or what is it, a chef manager, to help us really hit on what our parents are asking for, right? We want to make sure that our kids are full, but they get nutritious meals, that they are fresh. Having more people working on that can only be good, right? So thank you, and welcome, sort of.
Thank you so much.
You guys okay? You're good? Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to 6A, the PAUSD promise.
All right, before I turn this over to Dr. Che, who, by the way, has done amazing work on this, including the organization of it. And with all the people I've worked with over my career, and she is right up there at the top of my trust list of people that I just know is always going to do top shelf work with the best intentions, and I appreciate that about her. Two things I want to just touch on quickly before we jump in. The next iteration of the promise that'll be coming to you at the next meeting will be for your first time to consider for final approval. And there'll be two things that I would point your eyes to, just foreshadowing. Number one, after really spending some time reflecting about our holes in the district, places where we really need to invest, places where maybe we are falling short. We don't need another academic goal, I don't think, right now. But we do need goals around resiliency and disproportionate responses to news that we don't like is a problem. And I think we are teaching our kids some really, really bad things. As we talk about equity work, and Ms. Conaway and I have talked about this before, if you always see yourself as the victim, you're not in a position to help lift up others. And I think we have slipped into a place that we need to get out of. So the next version of the promise will not only have resiliency goals for students, we will have them for staff members and for our parents, because our students will learn from our parents and take cues there. And of all the things that are so amazing about this district, resiliency is a whole, and we need to call it out. So we will, and we'll be working on that. Number two, along the equity section, which also includes the fold-in of our SWIFT plan, the team has been working together, again, with Ms. Conaway's direction, to really simplify our reporting system. And I think that we're going to have something really exciting that will not only simplify and elevate the district's district-level reporting, but then have a place to get more granular at the site level. And I think that's a place we've missed in the past. We have gotten granular at this level and essentially robbed sites of the opportunity to do that work and to get into the granular pieces at their level. So those two things are not in this version. The last thing we are doing is we are doing another final sweep. Ms. Siegel, I think, raised a great point about the accessibility of language. So we're doing essentially jargon sweeps, and we're going to really give that a good hard look and say if a phrase could be redone in a way that's more accessible to people that maybe are less familiar with the jargon, then why wouldn't we do that? So we definitely want to make the language not a barrier to understanding our plan and goals. So Dr. Tate, with that, it's all you.
Thank you, Dr. Austin. The PAUSD Promise goals represent our annual strategic goals. As we build our goals for the next school year, we had a robust feedback session during our leadership team meetings, as well as feedback through stakeholder survey. We had 174 stakeholder feedback, with 3% of responses coming from the community, 23% from employees, 18% from parents, and 57% from students. Some of the highlights of the survey feedback includes supplementing early literacy work with qualitative data to show growth over time, providing additional on-campus tutoring for equity, expanding opportunities for cross-campus student events, exploring ways to improve communication regarding services provided for mental health. Innovation is a new promise goal. We received many interesting feedback, which included adding emphasis for special education and elementary innovation, leveraging technology to support all learners, and helping students to build flexibility and resilience through internship and certification opportunities. As we analyze the feedback, 4 distinct categories emerged under the innovation section: curriculum and instruction, enduring skills, incubator hub, and partnerships. Here are some of the highlights from each categories. Examples under curriculum and instruction include promoting safe and effective use of emerging technologies and using evidence to assess student learning. Under enduring skills, we'd like to incorporate student voice and find ways to develop student agency and efficacy. Incubator Hub is another exciting category. We have many teachers and staff who are innovating and would like to support practical implementation of ideas that meets the need of all of our students. We're envisioning a committee that can review their interests and systemize ways to support them to impact student learning. Finally, it is important for us to broaden our industry and academic partnership, including the one with Stanford. To prepare our students for the future, we must operate as a part of a larger community and serve as a model for them. We're very excited to go through the diverse stakeholder feedback and an iterative process to continue building our goals for the next year as a team. Thank you.
Thank you. We have 2 public comments, Edith Cohen and Stacy Ashland. Edith? Yes, Stacy's here, but Edith, I think, is on Zoom.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so I would like to talk about PAUSD progress indicators. The current progress indicators on early literacy are, as pointed out, statistically broken, but kudos on the stated intent to introduce longitudinal measures, growth-based measures for next year. I hope this will be done properly. So now the missing elephant in the room is the PAUSD promise, is the lack of goals on mass achievement. Mass education and preparedness for college-level STEM is critical for social mobility, but apparently is not something PAUSD wants to promise to our disadvantaged students. Instead, the SUP just announced they want to focus on re-educating parents to be happy with whatever they have. So now the situation is by third grade, 50% of our disadvantaged students are not meeting minimum grade level standards in math. This becomes 70% of our sixth graders and up, and it doesn't go up from there. We are doing worse than pre-pandemic, worse than comparable districts. Math is sequential in nature, and the importance of solid foundations at the early grades, starting kindergarten, cannot be overstated. The post-promise must promise a year of growth in math at each grade level to each student, as simple as that. This is the right metric, and it needs to be there. Our students that start middle school at third grade level or below cannot recover from that. The pretend algebra for all in eighth grade, with 25% of the class not remotely ready, is just a cruel optics at the expense of the self-concept and future options of students. The grade level middle school pathway should not have been removed when so many students are so much behind. More so than ever.
Thank you, Ms. Cohen. Stacey Ashland, and I'm sorry, there is a third speaker, Karthi Gatapati.
Thank you. I'd like to speak about the key strategy that refers to mental health, safety, and wellness, and to thank the board and the staff for including calling out the strategic partnerships and framework for prevention, in particular parent education and staff training, regarding creating a gun safety plan, partnering with law enforcement, the city, the PTA, to include procedures, guidelines, and training on this issue. On April 25th, we gave a parent ed presentation on Zoom with PTA Council and League of Women Voters. And one of the things, we were joined by a student from Pali as well as a pediatrician. And one of the things that we talked about is the Be Smart framework, which is a 501c3 education framework with no political or legislative aspect. It includes an emphasis on secure storage of guns and to prevent violence, gun violence affecting children. Board President DiBrienza was on that call, thankfully, to take the questions and answer the frustrations and the fear from the parents regarding the threat of the lockdown and the shelter in place that occurred at Pali that morning. The students, teachers, staff, and parents need and appreciate this commitment to safety that you are showing by including this in the Palo Alto Promise. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Ms. Ashland. Karthi Gatapati. Did I say it right? Yes.
Hello, everyone. I'm Karthi.
Speak close to the microphone so the people at home can hear you.
Thank you. Thank you for this opportunity to speak. I know I signed up late. I wasn't intending on speaking. And I appreciate the opportunity to speak. I'm the incoming board rep next year, taking over from Johanna. So I appreciate the opportunity to speak to you all today. I want to speak on this topic for a pretty simple reason. As the previous speakers have mentioned, there were 174 responses to this survey, with 57% being from students. That's just 100 students who responded to this survey. That's not a lot for a school with as large of a school as ours. How many students are actually being represented? And more specifically, which students actually fill out those surveys? The way I see it, if anyone who's taking the time to fill out these surveys are generally fairly involved in our community already. It's the students that don't fill out these surveys that need to be represented. For example, I personally like to fill out the surveys. I like to think that I'm involved in shaping our district's policies when I do so. I didn't see this survey. Ms. Ladomir commented on how her daughter didn't know what the school board did. Now, frankly, I didn't know what the school board did either until I signed up to be student representative. I think it is vital that our students and the people that this board is supposed to be helping know what's going on. This PAUSD promise is supposed to be the strategical outline for the next few years, but most students don't know what that strategy is. Most students don't know that the PAUSD promise is an actual thing. I know I didn't. So for example, let's look at the mental health. The mental health part of the plan, what included student outreach. A lot of students see that as a waste of time. We're spending our advisories, we're trying to finish homework, we have a lot of work to do. Some students would rather finish their homework. Some students would rather study for a test. I think it's vital that this board take in student feedback from a broader range of people than just 100. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and I look forward to hearing your ideas all year long next year, and hopefully we can, you can get a chance to talk to some of us before that even. Thank you. Okay, colleagues, this is really just up for discussion. It is a second time that we're seeing this, so you might see some things incorporated. Comments?
First, I wanted to thank everyone who participated in creating this and the community who responded, and I hope to get more community feedback, as we just heard. I also want to say it's much easier to edit something that's already written. As an English teacher, I'd say to my students, you did all the hard work, I'm just editing. So this is just a few comments, a few thoughts. In terms of early literacy, I wanted to ask, for our English language learners, are we also using Lexia? And do we want to make that addition here under key strategies? Is there someone? Guillermo?
Yeah, so we have had these conversations and we are looking into including Lexia.
Okay,
yes.
Great. My other question was on under innovation, when it says PK, should it be TK or is this a new term that we are using?
Well, it's TK, but we also have PK special ed at Greendale.
Okay, thank you. This is clarifying for me. In terms of partnerships underneath innovation, it says build upon partnerships with Stanford University. And I was wondering if we could consider, could this also include Bing? Because our TK program is going to be younger and younger. And I was thinking this could also be a great partnership to incorporate play into our TK program and use this institution. And my final comment was just on the last page for serve and celebrate others, when it says provide students with opportunities to serve and give back. I might just say with expanded opportunities, because I do think that YCS and Mora do an incredible job of offering a lot of opportunities, and just maybe to use expanded, because I do think we do a really good job in this district of offering opportunities. I wanted to thank everybody so much. This is amazing work, and I'm grateful to be in a district that has promises like these. That's all.
I mean, no pressure.
I mean, I'll just say that implementing the promise to me has been probably the most important thing that we've done. That's all. Great work.
Nice, concise. Ms. Littermeyer.
I actually have more comments than
comments?
that. No, well, I had a lot of comments, and then I decided I just wanted to talk about what I really, really, really wanted to be heard, because sometimes when we say too much, it's just like Charlie Brown adults, like wah, 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 wah. So I wanted to just talk about what I want to make sure is heard tonight, which is about mental health, safety, and wellness. And the point I wanted to make is that to me, they're really two distinct aspects of student mental wellness, and I see these as kind of analogous to treating symptoms and preventative care. And the school-based mental health program is really primarily about treating symptoms more effectively, including assessment and screening to catch symptoms earlier. So most of the key performance indicators in the promise are around the sort of treating symptoms part. And as we talked about a couple meetings ago, establishing this program was really a huge evolution for our district and a model for the entire state and the country. And I'm in full support, and we need to continue on the path and keep learning and evolving. And I really appreciate that program evaluation and course correction were included as 2 of the 10 levers necessary for a successful program. I've said it up here before, humility has not been our strong suit in this district, and humility and growth mindset really are absolutely crucial for any innovation to be successful. So thank you to staff for including those levers. But what I really want to talk about right now is the second aspect of student mental wellness. And I want to say this like as loudly and publicly as I can. I really want 2023, 2024 to be the year when we get serious about preventative care. We haven't totally ignored this as a district. We've done things like homework policy, earlier start times, even social emotional education. These all fall in the, I think, preventative care bucket. I'm really glad to see a key performance indicator about implementing a district-wide PK through 12 social emotional education curriculum. That's crucial. But all of this is kind of nibbling at the edges. What I'm talking about is really digging into the intractable culture and climate of academic pressure that we all acknowledge and lament endlessly, but we do so with kind of an overarching tenor of resignation, as if kids being stressed to their breaking points is a fait accompli, right? Like an unfortunate byproduct of growing up in a high-achieving community. I personally refuse to accept that fate for our students. I refuse to accept that there's nothing we can do about it as a school district. We need to get serious about identifying the root causes of academic stress and figuring out what we can do as a district to alleviate it. The last two bullet points of the key performance indicators for next year's promise get directly at what I'm talking about. So first, there was the calibrate grading and homework practices to reduce stress and improve mental health outcomes. This is an example of a concrete, specific action our district can take to help alleviate stress. And it's an example that came directly from student feedback. And then the last bullet point, I think, gets directly at Karthi, that's his name? Did I pronounce that correctly? Gets directly at what you were talking about. That last bullet point is incorporate a staff and student working group to develop practical solutions and propose specific actions at both the district and site levels aimed at reducing academic stress and promoting student well-being at PAUSD. This to me is exactly what we need. We need students and staff working together to figure out specific things we can do, because students know best what we're doing as a district that's adding to their stress. We aren't in your homes, we aren't in the community, but we are in your schools. And there's gotta be something we can do. There's gotta be things we can do to help, and at least to not be making it worse. So from my perspective, this working group can't get started fast enough, and I really hope there's no end date for it. I hope it's kind of a continuing collaborative partnership between students and staff and district. I have a year and a half left on this board, and I'm gonna be pushing for regular updates. Here's my giving you a heads up. Regular updates for what specifically we are doing about toxic stress. I want us to start messaging about our progress regularly, so it's not just me getting updates, but all PAUSD students and families. I don't know if it's in the superintendent's updates or it's communications from the high schools. I don't know how we message about this. I just know that honestly, our relative silence around the toxic impact of academic stress can send the implicit message that it's not something worth talking about, that it's either not a problem or it's not a problem we think we can solve. And I feel the exact opposite is true. I think we need to talk about it loudly and frequently, and at the very least, so students feel empowered to talk about it themselves. I think we owe it to our students to present a consistent counter-narrative to the one that tells them the stress they are under is unfortunate but unavoidable, because it's not. I promise it's not. It's not unavoidable and it's not acceptable. So that's what I really wanted to be heard tonight, and I'm done.
Mr. Hall. Okay. Student board reps, you might have some words to say about this. Go ahead.
I said this last time when we were talking about the new innovation subject in the PAUSD promise before, so I'll say it again. But I always remember seeing Dr. Austin's whiteboard every time. There's like bi-weekly meetings. Every time I go into his room and I see the whiteboard just full of agenda items, full of things that we have to do to make sure that the things on the PAUSD promises are promised and are like getting all of those things done. And I just want to say, like, once these things are, like, become goals, that the board will try their best to make them happen. So just wanted to echo that, and I said that last time too. So thank you.
Do you have anything? Sure.
Yeah, I also wanted to express my gratitude about these goals that they exist, even if they're not like well known by all students. I think they should be. I think they're really cool. And I also want to talk a little bit more about what Ms. Ladimiric says, especially since it's something that this is my second last board meeting. I might as well give what I have. I think, you know, being in this district for my whole school life, that really resonates with me, what you said about the culture, because when you live in it, when you experience it, and when you go through what you said, that stress that can bring you to your breaking point, it's obviously something that you want to fight against. And I know I'm going to be graduating in a few weeks, so I won't be able to constantly speak about this. But, and this is not to cause more defeat or pessimism, but I believe that this issue is unfortunately part of a larger culture in the Bay Area or even in the nation, because it's not just stress or just homework or just grades. It also is college, achievement. Do you need to be making money? Do you need to be like saving the world? Do you need to be making an impact to be important, like a noticeable impact that's on the news, that's in college, that's in your salary to be important and worthy? And I think, unfortunately, that narrative is very prevalent around here. You need to be productive, you need to be smart, you need to be intelligent to be worth something or to be worth recognizing. And that's something that I really hope in my lifetime has changed, as I'm seeing, because when it comes to students who want to fight against it, this is something that I learned, you know, over the years that I thought I would share. It's hard to fight against it because it's almost like meta in a way. If you want to fight against the culture will fight back at you, because by even having the narrative of, you know, I'm going to decide to take the classes that I think are reasonable and healthy, you are seen as falling behind and weak. And you only have to truly get to the other side you can't even escape beyond that, because you have peers and teachers and staff having that pressure on you. So going against it, when you go against it, it's not like you're fully out of it. You still live here. So it's not easy for students within it to decide to go against it. It really is a big community effort, which is what makes it difficult. It does include parents, it does include families and households, and even the larger area we're in, the Bay Area, I would argue. And this is not meant, again, to be pessimistic, but just to provide that context that it is difficult, but the students in this district do want it to be different, as hard as it is. I hope that in my lifetime I get to see that change. And I mean, I'm trying my best in my school. I know a lot of students are doing their best in their own bubbles. And I know there are a lot of community members trying their best. So, you know, more as a shout out to those people who are trying their best to go against the grain or to fight against the culture. It's not easy, but to know that more people are doing it does create a sense of community and solidarity that it can be possible if it is a group effort.
Thank you. Mr. Dara.
It does strike me that this topic might be ripe for a board study session. We had a Title IX board study session a couple years ago. It was in part a listening session, and then it informed our discussion and our future Title IX approach as a board in terms of the reports that we get, and it just shone a light. Shined? Shone?
Shown.
There was a light that was put on it. And
right there.
Look, I've been awake since 3:45. Okay, let's cut me some slack. But yeah, it might be worth having a study session and having students come and speak on the issue and have us listen and better inform us moving forward.
We will take that up in agenda setting. Just really quickly, I don't have a whole lot to add. I do appreciate that Ms. Ladimiric distinguished between stress and toxic stress. I think it's really important that as we are very careful about this toxic stress, this excessive stress, that we also acknowledge that some stress is good. Having deadlines and having some pressure and pushing yourself is very healthy, and it's part of what makes you grown up and ready to go off into the world, right? So we're not trying to put all of our students in a little, in a little plastic bubble and making sure that they never have any challenges, that we are trying to teach them how to handle reasonable challenges. And so really identifying it as toxic stress. Stress itself is not necessarily a problem. But what many students are telling us is that they feel like it's a toxic stress. So thank you for that. I love the feedback pages. I love reading this document. I love that for a long time I've thought it was a really valuable document, and every year we keep making it better. I appreciate the everyday language so that it's more accessible to everyone in our community, so that our students, our families, everyone reads this, and it's part of what their knowledge of our district, and they know it's what we're all focused on. I will note that when I look into all the subtitles, we used to complain, gosh, we have like 80 goals. How can we possibly meet 80 goals? We're just down to 5 now. Well, there's really like 80 goals in there. What we've really done is organize them, clump them, sort of assigned them that this is your lane and this is your lane, and we're all working together. So I think we've been a lot more thoughtful, organized, and targeted about them. And I'm grateful that gun safety and other safety is in there. Unfortunately, it's just more and more relevant all the time. And I appreciate Ms. Ashland's advocacy and agree that the Be Smart campaign is a really, really good sort of base to go from. So this looks great. Thank you. Anybody else have anything on this? Great. It is 8:07. Let's get through our discussion items. 6B is our resolution.
All right, Ms. Chow.
All right, thank you, Dr. Austin, and good evening, Board. I will do my very best to get through this with straightforward language and not get too tied up in some of our acronyms. But this discussion is on pre-funding the district's other post-employment benefits, or OPEB, with the California Employees Retiree Benefit Trust, or CERT. So our very first slide, what we're looking at here is we see the district's OPEB liability in 2 separate years. And right off the bat, when we look at the balance sheet total for June 30th of 2020, we see that our unfunded liability for our other post-employment benefits is $26.4 million, and just a year later, it increases by about $2.5 million on June of 2021 to nearly $29 million. What this is really saying is that per GASB 75, the district is required to identify its unfunded OPEB liability, and this came about in 2017. Currently, the district has funds set aside in a district fund, Fund 20, but the only way to offset this liability is to transfer these funds into a formal 115 trust. The funds in our district Fund 20 are not recognized as an offset to our OPEB liability. By not paying down this debt, it is actually growing because we're only paying the amount owed in the current year. This method is referred to pay-as-you-go, and it's quite similar to, making only the minimum payment on your credit card bill. You meet the obligation with your credit card company, but you're never paying down your debt or that outstanding balance. By pre-funding in a trust, the discount rate goes up and the unfunded liability goes down. And we'll see the impact of this in more detail on upcoming slides. Okay, so why is it prudent to fund or pre-fund our OPEB? Well, it makes financial sense. And one, the discount rate of the trust is higher than the interest rate that is paid to the county treasury. Second, when it's placed in a trust, the funds are recognized as an asset, and therefore it offsets the liability. It pays down that debt. And third, it improves our balance sheet. So this is something that works to our favor when we present to rating agencies and we're trying to issue new debt, such as in a trans or in bond funds.
Okay, so here we are looking at the sensitivity of 1%. And specifically 1% change in that discount rate. So when we go up or down by 1%, you'll notice that going up by 1% from the current rate of 1.92 to 2.92, the OPEB liability is reduced by 2.1 million. This demonstrates how much impact the discount rate has on overall liability. So why have we selected CERT? Well, it's been around for a long time. There's over 600 employer participants, and by participants, it's not just school districts. It is cities, counties, water districts, fire districts, libraries, mosquito abatement agencies, and quite a wide variety of employers. There's over 17 billion in assets, and there's an option to fund this through 3 different funding strategies. Here's a quick look at the school employers that participate in the pre-funding program. I highlighted our neighboring districts from Santa Clara and San Mateo counties, as well as some of the similar funded basic aid districts. These 83 districts are part of the over 600 total agencies that have pre-funded through the CERT. If we were to look at the entire total 600, we would see that the city of Palo Alto, as well as the county of Santa Clara, are 2 of the non-school district agencies that have pre-funding programs with the CERT. Now, on this one, in all honesty, if I could only show you one slide, this would be the slide I would show you. What we're looking at here is we see the 3 strategies through the CERT program, and as well compared to our current PAUSD strategy, which is the pay-as-you-go. The first line is the expected rate of return. The next line is projected risk. And what this is saying to us is that if the district had begun funding in an irrevocable trust or a 115 trust, then the GASB 75 total OPEB liability at June 30th of 2022 under strategy 1 would be 21.4 million. Under strategy 2, it would be 22.2 million. And under strategy 3, it would be 23 million. Where we are currently at, as of June 30th of 2022, under our current strategy, is nearly 29 million. So on this slide, we're able to look at the 3 strategies and see the performance over time. Clearly, strategy 1 is the largest strategy selected there, with over 14 billion in managed assets. When I went through this process in a previous district in 2011, the strategy 1 was the only one that's available, and since that time, there's options for a strategy 2 and a strategy 3. And not only that, not only are those available, but they've been available for 10 years, so we now have 10 years of data with which to look at the performance of those various strategies. When we look at the strategies, or the number of districts that have selected each strategy, and this is just our school districts, these 49 of that 83 have selected strategy 1, 17 have selected strategy 2, and the same for strategy 3. What's nice about this pre-funding program is that the district does retain a lot of control over our investment portfolio. We're able to select from the 3 different investment strategies, as we just saw, and we can move between those 3 strategies at any given time However, it's not recommended that we jump back and forth because this is seen as a long-term investment strategy. The contributions are voluntary, they're not required. And in addition to that, we also maintain full control of the amount and the schedule of which we contribute to the trust. So for example, we could have the actuary draw up a schedule where we make a monthly or an annual payment that meets the criteria over 30 years, much like a 30-year mortgage. Or we could make one lump sum payment at the end of the year when we close the books and we know what we are able to contribute. And this is something that I would recommend as a method of funding this going forward. We also have a degree of liquidity, despite the name of this being a trust or an irrevocable trust, because funds from the trust can be pulled out to make that pay-as-you-go expense, rather than making it from the general fund. So how much does it cost? Well, there's zero cost to join, no activation cost, no setup. There is an annual cost of 10 basis points on the asset balance. That's very minimal in terms of administration and investment fee costs. As a comparison, when I did set this up at another district in 2011, the cost was 12 basis points, and I think that there were less than 200 employers participating at that time. Now that employer base has grown to over 600, they've lowered the basis points to 10, and it's been 10 for quite a while. So next steps, we have two options, essentially. We can continue with a pay-as-you-go option. As we've seen, this is the most expensive approach, and sometimes it does not allow for a pay down of our balance, and our balance may actually grow. This could put stress on our general fund as we go forward, and higher amounts on the pay-as-you-go are required to meet that cost. My recommendation would be to go forward with the setting up the CERT trust. We have the ability to use a higher investment through the trust than we receive through our county treasury, and that does bring down our unfunded liability. We can reduce the dependency on the general fund, and I think the thing that we haven't talked about yet is that having the trust ensures that this benefit, this for medical benefits, is available to our retirees into the future. And we've mentioned the fact that the contributions are voluntary, and we do retain some liquidity. So that sums up the presentation, and I'm happy to answer any questions that the board may have.
Thank you. I think you did quite a good job of making that as clear and simple as you can. Mr. Collins.
Thank you. Thank you, and thank you, Ms. Chow, for the presentation. I think most people find this kind of finance stuff as boring as dirt. But I'm really glad that you shared it in detail, and I think we should underscore it's important, because while, moving a little money around seems like, kind of not consequential in the scheme of some of the things that we discuss, frankly, the reason we're able to do most of the things that we're able to do is because we do have funding from our community, and we take good, responsible care for it, which is why they keep funding us. So I think it's really important, and I appreciate the work that went behind it. I think doing this is sort of an IQ test. I mean, is 6% greater than 2% in terms of return on your money? I think it is. So they taught me in MBA school that 6 is bigger than 2. So I think that's a good guide, that this is probably a good investment. One thing that you didn't talk about that I'm curious about is, how much should we fund? I mean, we're coming toward the end of the fiscal year. We can kind of see it from here. I mean, what would your proposed funding? What do we have in Fund 20 today? What would your proposed funding be at this point?
That is a great question. We have slightly over 5 million in our Fund 20, and my recommendation would be that we transfer that balance into the trust to open our trust. And then going forward, when we close the books each year, we can look at where we ended the year and what is a prudent amount to be funding, rather than.
If I might suggest maybe a slightly different approach for you to consider, I think that's a reasonable approach. Another approach is basically to budget it and to say, let's plan on investing $2 million, $3 million in this every year. And then if we don't have it, then we can say, okay, well, that's an expense that we can reduce. But it's often, if you don't plan for something, it's harder to do it. We all know about, same is true with family vacations and discretionary purchases and paying down our own credit card debt at home, is that if you don't budget it, often you don't do it. And so I might suggest flipping it and saying, let's budget it in advance, and then if we need to cut expenses at the end, it can be an expense we can cut. I am curious, this is for OPEB, and I know that's one of these mystical. OPEB is other post-employment benefits, which basically is health care for retirees, right? So this covers one relatively small part of our obligations, which is basically debt that the district, we call it unfunded liability, but it basically amounts to debt, money that we've borrowed that we're going to owe sometime in the future. Our pension obligations are a much bigger number. Do you know offhand what they are? It used to be 40, 50 million?
They are exponentially larger than this, and I'd have to look at the most recent actuary report to
Sorry,
get that
didn't mean to
exact
put you on the
number.
spot. Well, because what I guess I'd ask for is if it's a good idea for OPEB, it seems a great idea for pensions. And the city, as you may know or may not, the city maybe 4 or 5 years ago actually took the step of starting to pre-fund into a revocable trust their pension retirement obligations for exactly the same reasons you're laying out here. So it seems to me that if it's a good idea for OPEB, it's probably a great idea for pensions. So it'd be great to see, and it's not like, it's like paying down debt at home. It doesn't really matter that much if you pay down debt A or debt B, but we should think about, if we've got a large number of debt, hundreds of millions of dollars, over $100 million in debt would be my guess. We should have a system or a plan about how we're going to fund or pay down all of it, not particularly just focusing on this one part. We can be patting ourselves on the back of reducing OPEB while pension obligations are, kind of clipping away at a pretty big rate. Does that make sense? Do you agree with that?
I do agree with that, and in fact, I wholeheartedly agree. And I think in bringing this to the board, the thought was that this would be the first step in addressing and paying down some of that debt. And we also get the acknowledgement of building those assets when we turn in our audit, our financial reports, and as I said before, when they're reviewed by, for example, ratings agencies. So all of those do work in our favor once we do start addressing it in this fashion.
Well, I think it's a great idea. I'm really glad you brought this forward. I think it's a great idea. When times are good, that's the time to strengthen your financial position and put your money to work. Reduce your, step one, pay down debt, because there'll be bad times, and probably sooner rather than later. And what I think what we often find is that when one thing goes wrong, everything goes wrong, or multiple things go wrong at the same time, and you're really glad to have financial flexibility when things start going wrong. And so to me, this is purchasing future. This is a way to use our current financial strength to purchase future financial flexibility, which I think future boards hopefully will maybe thank us for, but probably just not curse us for making it any worse. Okay, thank you very much. That was great.
I had sort of a question that was almost like more foundational, but I think his questions would follow from my question, which is why now? Like, why haven't we done this before? And maybe it's because we've cleaned the house now up to the point where we're like dusting off the shelves or something. But is that why? I mean, we just finally got here? Because I agree with everything Mr. Collins said, but my question when I looked at this was, oh, this is interesting. Why now?
Well, your assumption is correct. Okay. I think, I can't speak to my, before my time, but I think we were wanting to get through COVID, we were wanting to get through position control, and we've cleared some of those major hurdles, and now we're looking at how to have a better functioning, more efficient budget that works for the district. Like I mentioned, we do have money set aside in Fund 20, but we're not getting any credit for it. So taking it from a district-held account and putting it into a trust, I think the timing is just right to do that.
Okay, because that's what I thought that was probably the answer, because I am a wholehearted proponent of pay yourself first. And this is sort of a pay yourself 101. So I would defer to you about, well, I would assume you would present to us how, oh, that was my second question. I think what you said was, and I believe Mr. Collins clarified this, we could just, every year we can change this, right? Like we could set aside, this is our goal amount, and then we get to the end of the year and we don't have it, or we have another priority, we can skip it for the year, right? We're not committing to anything.
Correct. The contributions are voluntary. So we have funds built into the budget for the 23-24 year. If we are able to meet that, fantastic. If we need to adjust it, that's well within our right, and we have that flexibility per the trust to do so.
Student board reps, do you have any questions? Okay, I mean, I hate to simplify, but this is a no-brainer for me. And if you want to expand it to other trusts, bring it to us, and I'm happy to hear it. So this is just up for discussion. I believe we'll be voting on it next time, right? Okay, great. Thank you. On to C and D, which I'm assuming you're doing together. Dr. Austin?
Mr. Hodgson.
Thank you, Dr. Austin. Both of these are related to reopening negotiations with our employee associations, CSCA, Chapter 301, and the Palo Alto Educators Association. So first, I want to say thank you to President Steiner and President Baldwin for the collaboration on putting this together as we go through the annual process of our sunshine proposals to open up negotiations. So this is kind of a standard annual process we do. For CSCA, the district is opening Article 9, disciplinary action, and Article 12, safety, and their CSCA has proposed opening Article 7, hours, and for PAEA, the district is proposing to open evaluations, and PAE is opening Article 13, working conditions, and Article 9, class size. That's important to point out that every year comp and benefits, employee compensation benefits are open, so that will be part of our process too. So this is about tonight, and then for discussion and approval at the following meeting.
I think that, this is C and D together, would you say?
Yeah, one's for CSE and one's for PA.
Okay, before we discuss, we have one comment, Star Teach Out. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, yeah.
Sorry, my laptop won't hold a charge. Oh, that's not on. Well, I'll give it a try. Good evening. Since class size is included in the CBA negotiation, I want to comment on how important small high school classes are in some of our academic support classes in particular, some of our regular length classes as well. I want to acknowledge that there are some classes which can be larger if they need to be for cost cutting. But since I was a long-term substitute teacher at Gunn in an FOS class, Focus on Success, I want to use that as an example for why smaller classes matter more for a class such as this. Previously capped at 15 students per class, it's crept up to about 17 this year. This is already too large to support, to give the supports that it really is intended to deliver. The class, increasing the class size up to 20 would drop my time or a teacher's time to about 3.5 minutes per student. But within that time, Focus on Success is really, it's the primary tier 2 intervention for students who do not have IEPs. And so it is a really important class for a lot of students. You know, it's a successful model that serves a set of students from very diverse academic and ethnic backgrounds. It really cuts through all sorts of students. You know, and in particular, it really impacts a lot of the students we're identifying in subgroups, those that we want to stretch into higher lane, honors classes and AP classes. And so it's successful. Our gun FOS team is actually mentoring PALI to expand their support class away from a study hall type to this more hands-on full support model. Over the past few years, you know, as you know, we've also removed middle lanes in biology and math. And so there's a little less wiggle room for students in their course selections. So to really
Thank you, Ms.
find,
Teachout.
that's 3 minutes? Ugh. All right, thank you.
I think that is the only comment for this. Okay, so board colleagues, are there questions or comments for Mr. Bahadur Singh? Okay, well, I want to thank staff and our union heads for coming to the table and opening up these conversations, and look forward to, you know, hearing what comes from them. If anyone has any other comments on this? No? Okay. Staff report.
I believe we have Dr. Che and Ms. Howell, principal at Fletcher, who chaired this committee, to give an update. And then I know that there will be some questions on this, and we can all pitch in on that.
Ad hoc committee is a short-term committee designed to make recommendations for complex issues, leveraging diverse viewpoints within a given period of time. We established 12 short-term ad hoc committees this year, and the choice program being one of them, making recommendation to the board to consider tonight. PAUSD has ad hoc committee milestones, which consist of the following, as shown on the slide. They were developed through extensive feedback from the leadership team. There are 3 key milestones in the process. The first involves review of the board policy and gathering historical background. The second milestone includes seeking expert input and defining criteria for evaluation. Finally, the last milestone gathers additional stakeholder input in order to make a recommendation to the board. All ad hoc committees have adapted the milestone, and this helps us calibrate our committee work. With this background, I'm going to now turn it over to Ms. Howell, who has been leading the Choice Program Committee, and have her share her work and recommendation to the board.
Good evening. Thank you for allowing some time this evening to share the progress of the Ad Hoc Choice Program Committee. My name is Melissa Howell, and I'm the proud principal at Ellen Fletcher Middle School. And I had the distinct pleasure of leading this collaborative, informative, diverse, and spirited committee. Through the course of our time together, we arrived at a proposal recommendation I will be sharing with you this evening. The committee was to review and study each choice program critically. Members were to determine what went into the evaluation of the program and align expectations and outcomes with the current PAUSD board policies and the administrative regulations. With this consideration in mind, we were charged to prepare a summary report of each choice program, historical enrollment numbers, student representation, and measures of its success, while identifying strengths and opportunities for each program. Our committee did a phenomenal job staying on focus to our commitment. 24 members were selected to participate. I collaborated with site administrators who participated on the committee to help select parents from each of those who had applied. The selection process considered parents and staff members of the current choice program schools, as well as PAEA, CSEA, and PTAC representation. We met between September and January and spent a good deal of our initial meeting time reviewing our charge, deadlines, established norms, reviewed current board policy and administrative regulations, as well as established meeting agendas that would be most productive. A significant part of our meeting was designated to hearing and learning from staff directly involved with the choice programs. Our current PAUSD choice program schools are elementary schools Ohlone, Escondido, and Hoover, and middle schools JLS and Green. A matrix was designed to help guide the choice school presentations, including background information, historical enrollment numbers, selection criteria and process, and whether enrollment was impacted at neighborhood schools. The strengths and challenges of PAUSD choice program schools were discussed, leveraging and vetting criteria developed by the committee. Based on this, the committee reached consensus on options to be considered by the Board of Education. Board Policy Review Committee, the BPRC, to clearly define choice programs within PAUSD. For example, it was noted that there is a need to update the definition of choice programs, to develop a school program design or master plan for choice programs that must meet California state standards, which are evaluated against district-designed grade-level appropriate rubrics. We are also recommending that the district work with the school sites to determine the capacity of neighborhood enrollment seat numbers. This approach seeks to maintain balance and equity for students and families in neighborhoods and those seeking choice options.
Thank you. We have 2 comments on this item, and Dr. Austin, just to clarify before we discuss here, these are committee recommendations, not staff recommendations that we adopt these. This is a first conversation for us coming out of the committee report, right?
Yeah, this would mirror our first conversation with enrollment, where we then brought back some actual recommendations for consideration. And additionally, I think there is nothing that would impact our schools next year. So nothing here is imminent. Even if we bring things back and you want to do things, it's going to be a full year away before anything would show up at a school site, although we can get things rolling for the BPRC in the early fall.
Okay, we have 2 comments. First, Yaroslava, and then Karthi.
Hi, I have been an Ohlone parent for 6 years, and I see how the distinctive Ohlone curriculum is being dismantled piece by piece. Ohlone continues to be an extremely popular choice program at PAUSD, which shows that the program should be nurtured. If the admission process to Ohlone ends up changed to include neighborhood students, then the school enrollment needs to be increased accordingly. Additionally, the distinctive curriculum of Ohlone should not be further watered down as a result of this potential decision. We love the opportunities choice schools offer families. Thank you.
Thank you. Karthi? Oh, on 8A, this is, oh no, ad hoc committee, choice programs. Interesting, this is a choice program. You didn't mess up, I messed up. I'm sorry about that. And that's where you wanted to speak, right? This was the appropriate place for you to speak, it seemed. Okay, great. It just seems like they placed there, they made sense to place there. We will call on you again later, thank you. Okay, colleagues, questions, thoughts, comments? Yes, Ms. Siegel.
There we go. Sorry, I was not on this committee, and this information is new to me and likely new to the community, so I have questions. Can one of the committee members help me understand what the committee has in mind for recommendation number 2? Recommendation number 1 was clear to me, but recommendation number 2 is not.
I think that Ms. Howell can answer that, right? So,
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question?
Yeah. And it's kind of a general question, but the bullet point to me was a little bit vague. The second one, the other one, the one about board policy, that one is clear to me. It talks about neighborhood capacity and seats, and it talks about balance and equity. And so can anyone on the committee at this point be more specific as to what this means?
We're doing hand signals here. Why don't you give it the first shot, and I'm happy to come in also.
So if I'm hearing the question you're asking correctly is you're wanting to understand why the recommendation is to speak to the sites regarding seat capacity? I think, is that correct? Or enrollment for choice schools?
District will work with the school site to determine the capacity of the neighborhood enrollment and seat numbers. So we're looking at, when it says neighborhood enrollment, is there a boundary that we are looking at? Because right now, like the choice programs, there isn't a specific neighborhood boundary. So that was my first question. And then when it says seeks to maintain balance and equity, I just was hoping that could be explained more. I did read through all the meeting notes, all 4 meeting notes, but it wasn't in the notes that I could find what those, yeah.
I think the conversation of the committee was regarding neighborhood students who are not attending their neighborhood schools and having that opportunity, equitable opportunity to attend their neighborhood schools. So looking at how that seat placement, how that enrollment is impacting our neighborhood schools.
As a person who was on the committee as well, thank you. I think that was a fair, concise, just to elaborate on it. I think there was a number of the people on the committee stated that imagine the kid who lives across the street from a choice. We've talked before in this body, and I'm not sure, it may have been before Ms. Siegel joined us, about how one of the features of choice programs is by definition, if they're 100% choice, they take something away from the neighborhood where they're located. If there's a school there, and it was at one point a community school, or could be a community school, a neighborhood school, if you make it a choice program open to all, you take away that neighborhood school from the people who live in that neighborhood. And so there are various mechanisms of balancing that, and that was one of the things that the committee discussed, is imagine the kid who lives across the street from a choice school and either doesn't want to go to that choice school or applies and doesn't get into that choice school and now has to go to another school when he lives across the street. So the question was, hey, what do you do about that? And there are various things that other districts do to handle that. They split, sometimes they make, we see that with your own school, is how we're doing a theme school instead of a choice school for sustainability. And we also, we talked about years ago on the enrollment committee, the idea of having neighborhood set-asides at choice schools so that neighborhood kids would, at least some of them would have preferred access to a spot before you opened it up to everybody else. So that was, I think, is that a fair expansion on what I think you correctly said to start? And I think that seems to be what that second bullet is getting at, talking more about those issues.
Yeah, thank you.
So I guess more specifically, was there like a specific boundary that was drawn at this time, or? Okay. Can I ask more? Should I ask more? Okay. So how, in the meeting, how do you plan on to design this to improve equity while preserving each of the choice programs as an option for lotteries?
So I think that's what we're going to ask staff to do, right? I think this is what the committee recommended, and the next step would be for staff to think about, does this make sense? Is this something we want to do? How would we want to do it? What's the proposal? And bring it back to us to talk about, right? This is just what the committee, so I don't think the committee got into those details.
Okay.
Right.
And I think it would be helpful for the lottery data to be public as it was before COVID. And maybe I just couldn't find it, but before COVID, I could see how many spots after siblings were available, choice programs, how many students were waitlisted at each site. And I think that would just be helpful so that the community has better understanding of these proposed changes. And as mentioned, before, could we add spots to include the neighborhood children and not decrease the lottery spots to improve equity and also continue to maintain these as choice programs? Was just a thought of mine. And my other one was, I've been I hear from the community, and I have been hearing from the community that families are worried that this is part of a move to strip away choice programs. And as a board member, I am here to represent the views and questions and concerns of my constituents. And so I'm wondering, as part of this, will the staff be surveying the community, including families from the choice programs, as many families stretch financially to move here, and many do because we offer choice programs. And so I know choice programs are near and dear to many in this community. So just making sure that community input is heard, is seen, and that it's as clear as we can make it, because when I saw this bullet point, you can hear with all my questions, I'm not quite sure what all of it means. And I like the idea of adding neighborhood children and keeping the number of lottery spots so that we can improve equity and also maintain our choice programs. As what I've seen and heard with these programs is when families are opting in, it helps to maintain the choice programs and the philosophy. And I think having choice in this district is great and is one of the reasons why families move here and stretch to move here. That's it.
We're all for choice. I think that just looking at the number of applicants will tell us the interest in, that the community has in it. But staff will come back, I think, and give us recommendations. Do you have anything?
I just think as a part of the master plan, or maybe as a part of the BP or the AR, it would be helpful to distinguish between choice schools and choice programs, because I think there's potentially a way, if I don't even know no one knows what the solution is going to look like or the recommendations, but if what Ms. Siegel has said comes to fruition, and there's a consideration of making choice schools neighborhood schools, there must be a way to still maintain the character of those schools through choice programs like we do at other schools, whether it's through connections or, we have so many choice programs. So without prejudging anything, that's something that would be helpful to know the difference, or at least have it defined.
Thanks. Ms. Ledermark?
Yeah, I have. So this may be slightly connected to Ms. Siegel's comment in a roundabout way. And this is just, I feel like I'm channeling Ken Dauber here, but we really have worked hard for BPRC to be not the place where policy is made. So I don't know exactly what our current policies say. And if this is a matter of just tweaking language and clarifying, then fine. But if it's a matter of develop school program design or master plan, that feels to me like, oh, there may be actually some substantive thought going into what is a choice program? Are we changing our ideas of that? And I just want to make sure I just want to ask staff, I don't know what the policies currently say and what is being considered in terms of needing to be changed and created, but just if it's getting to a place where it's really substantive work, and maybe it starts at BPRC and then somebody puts up their hand, Mr. Drupp or Ms. Siegel, and says, hey, this is getting too substantive, I think conversations like that need to be happening with the full board. That would just be my input.
Don't staff really do that work, though?
Yes,
right?
they
so
do.
If this is part of what we're asking staff to do, right? I mean, I think all of it is staff work.
Right. But if staff brings a brand new policy to BPRC that requires board input, I don't think BPRC is the right place for that.
Right, and that's our current practice in BPRC as well, to make sure that, staff will give us what we can look at, but we won't make any kind of decision. If there are considerations for the board, we'll give the board more as opposed to less.
Perfect.
That was it?
Well, yeah, just in general, I'm glad that we had this committee. I think these are good conversations to have, and that last bullet point, it is sort of unclear because I think it's unclear right now. But I wanted to add we had people speak again tonight about Stanford West busing and thanking us, and I just want to say that we are not a district that provides busing, and so this isn't really just it's not just saying, hey, kids across the street, you can't go to the school. It's saying you may potentially have to go miles away, which nobody else has to do. And so I just, as the sites and staff are thinking about that in terms of sort of what's, my kid, we probably travel farthest in my family besides Stanford West, because we live in downtown North and we go to Addison, and that's far. So if that's sort of the standard for how far kids are expected to travel, it seems to me that we should sort of have a standard for what we're expecting in a school that doesn't bus kids. And so let's just make sure that that's considered as we're moving forward at the site level and thinking about enrollment versus neighborhood school.
Mr. Collins, anything else?
Briefly. I was glad that we had this committee, and Ms. Howell, you did a great job leading the committee. Thank you very much. We've had the Hoover, Ohlone, this included Hoover and Ohlone and the language immersion programs. I think by and large, people looked at the language immersion programs, certainly speaking for myself, and said, okay, well, that's obvious. And there was no, there wasn't a lot of discussion or focus on what might need to be different or considered even with them. They just seemed fine. With Hoover and Ohlone, I think both programs, if I get my history right, have been around since the 70s. And have been separate schools the way they are today. The programs in both have changed relatively substantially over that 50-year period. God, that's a long time, 50 years. And our policies and approaches to them have not. In fact, I don't think they've been examined very much. And so I thought it was really good to have this committee, and I thought the committee did a great job. There were a lot of principals, all the principals from the choice programs were on the committee, and as well as some other principals and administrators. And I thought there was really thoughtful conversation about some of these issues. And I think part of the reason, you come up with these conclusions that are sort of, still fairly vague and high level, is that it's a tough topic to wrap your mind around. It's not all obvious. And especially because we've lived with a certain structure for a long time, and we kind of take for granted some of the effects. I mean, just to hark back to not that many years ago, when I was on the enrollment committee in 2014, the number of kids who were overflowed from Palo Verde was probably equal to the number of kids overflowed from every other elementary school together. And why? And I never even understood at the time. I never understood till I was on this committee and I looked at the maps more carefully. It's like because all the kids that live in the what would be the Ohlone neighborhood are now in the Palo Verde. So Palo Verde carries two attendance areas, the Ohlone attendance area and the Palo Verde attendance area, or the historical Ohlone attendance area. And as a result, it was over-enrolled. And we overflowed kids. Ms. Brown's nodding because she remembers too. It's like we used to overflow kids out of there like crazy because it had a limited capacity and a very large attendance area. So it just kind of, and we lived with that. And everybody said, well, that's just the way it is. So I thought this committee was really good at kind of stepping back and saying, what is it we're really trying to do here? Mm-hmm. And are there alternative ways to think about what we're trying to do and try to accomplish the same objectives? And like so many things, not say, okay, well, this is good and something else is bad, or this is bad and we're not going to do it anymore. But we have competing goods. With choices of good. Having programs that people want, that's definitely a good. Having kids be able to go to the school across the street, also a good. Having schools that reflect the diversity of our community, also good. So we've got multiple goods here that we're trying to balance, and I think it's great, this committee and some staff work that we're going to undertake now helps address some of those issues and make sure we've got a balance that we all like. So anyway, I just want to add that and thank you for running such a great committee.
Thank you.
Students, anything? Okay. Okay, I've got some, not surprisingly, I have some comments. I appreciate the public comments, and from my colleagues, as a 13-year parent at one of these choice schools, this issue is of tremendous interest to me. I chaired the Farm Council for 3 years, and I know how hard it is to get volunteers for all of the work that needs to be done at a school like this. There's a real concern that diluting that commitment to an Ohlone education will put the choice program itself at risk, and I hear those concerns. I also just want to acknowledge that there are a small number of students who have to literally walk right past what would be their neighborhood school to get to a pretty far away place that we have designated as their neighborhood school. Because moving Ohlone to that site took a neighborhood school off the map, right? So it created unreasonably long trips to a boundary school. So I really look forward to staff really considering the situation and making some recommendations, knowing that Ohlone requires a huge amount of work to make the program run, and that there's a wait list for the school itself, including a wait list for MI. And it's important that we be mindful and balance the equity concerns with the strong desire for this program to continue at full strength. So I look forward to seeing what you guys come back with. Okay, that's it for. Yeah, right. So now we're on to 8A, and there is no staff report for our info items, which means we can start with our public comment. So if you want to come up now and give your comment, you've got 2 minutes. And you know, we're like at 9 o'clock here. This is late these days.
I appreciate the opportunity to speak again. I'll get through things quickly because I know it's been a long day for all of us. I'll be speaking in a similar vein to my previous comments about student representation. So the dual enrollment committee had a grand total of 1 student on the committee. I don't actually know who that student is because the website, the PAUSD website on those committees lists them in the composition list as student. Yes. Doesn't actually say their name. The first bullet point on the committee's meeting notes says that committee members reviewed possible recommendations and discussed concerns from various stakeholders' perspectives. I think the students are a fairly important stakeholder on this issue. I see 1 student on the board or on the committee actually discussing this issue. I don't think that can be representative of the student population as a whole, especially on an issue as important to the students as dual enrollment. If I asked anyone at Pally or at Gunn about ad hoc committees or about this committee on dual enrollment, I'm fairly confident that I'd get nothing but blank stares. And despite that, it's clear that dual enrollment is a really important issue to students. We had a packed room an hour ago during public forum. I count 2 now, myself and incoming ASB president. I don't think that's an accurate representation of the students who really care about this issue. And more importantly, when students aren't aware of the important work that this board does to ensure things like dual enrollment and access to academically rigorous classes, when students aren't aware of that, that's how you get the comments that I'd call personal attacks on the integrity of this board during things like public forum. I think by expanding student representation, expanding student access to information, that's how we, I think, increase their participation and maybe make it less adversarial.
Thank you for your comments. And I'll just say you will find that parents feel that way when there's only a handful of parents, and teachers feel that way when there's only a handful of teachers, and eventually your committee's really, really big. But I really look forward to our discussions in the coming year. I think you'll be a wonderful addition too. Okay, colleagues, do you have any comments about either one of these 2 info items? Okay, let's go on to board operations. Ms. Siegel, this could be a little long because it's May and there's a lot of stuff going on.
No, so, I condensed it. It was hard because the last 3 weeks there have been so many events, and okay, I'm only going to pick 2, so I just picked 2. But there were celebrations, performances, unveilings, and even parades that I went to over the past 3 weeks. I want to celebrate and build up our middle school theater teachers, Chris, Molly, and Jennifer Ellington, for bringing all 3 middle school students together for an amazing production of Conjunction Junction, What's Your Function, also known as Schoolhouse Rock. It was so much fun to see. My children loved it. I loved it. I brought my mom. So there's 3 generations, and we all loved it for different reasons. But one of the reasons I loved it is getting all of the middle schoolers together, and they collaborated and they cooperated and they created something beautiful, and it was really fun to watch. So I want to thank everybody involved. I also want to acknowledge the amazing work of our Pally students in Social Justice Cohort 7, as well as their teacher, Eric Bloom, who worked alongside Cherokee Nation to create the murals, Same Moon, Same Stars. I've been to quite a few events this year, and sitting there and watching the unveiling of the mural and listening to Kimberly Teehe's speech, I had to email Eric Bloom and ask him if he could give me a transcript of the speech because I wanted to read it to my children, to teach them, to inform them. I was so inspired by our students. I was inspired by Kimberly Teehee, and I just want to thank everyone involved. And I recommend to this community, if you haven't seen it yourself, it's in the 800 wing of Pali, and it is truly incredible. So those are the two things I wanted to highlight for the past 3 weeks. Thank you.
We had the Mayfet parade, and it was great to see our bands. It was great to see our bands there. It was also great to see members of our staff who were there and our board members.
I'm just going to go down the line here, so I'll go next. Yes, May is always a ridiculous month to try to summarize, but some of us were at the PAEA dinner. Our teachers union has a celebratory dinner every spring, and it was nice to be back in person. We used to have them in the before time, and just to see them celebrating their own work and nominating each other and recognizing each other, and it was a really nice evening. The middle school play was phenomenal, and it's really just amazing to see that many kids from different places come together. The social justice mural was really moving, and I'll let Ms. Siegel's comments speak for themselves. The art show opened, the PAUSD art show is happening right now. Please go check it out at the Art Center. It is phenomenal. It is phenomenal. Like, I don't even think of myself as like someone who loves to go and look at art. And every time I go there, I cry. It's beautiful. We have very talented kids and a very strong program. And it's really nice to see it all come together. And curated. Thank you to the curator of the show. The Palo Alto choirs last Friday, I think, got a superior rating. Every single choir that performed, they had a CMEA state exhibition, I guess. There were adjudicators, and there was very serious feedback that was given, and it was really wonderful to be there and see several of our choirs, and the kids were having fun. It was this very serious place with not judges, they were adjudicators, and the kids were really enjoying it, which was great. The Friends of Cubberley is an organization that meets on a regular basis to advocate for Cubberley development. And I have been attending those meetings, and Mayor Koo has been attending those meetings. And in our last meeting that we attended, she reported that the city has agendized discussing the letter that we've given to them and what they might propose to us, I believe at their next city council meeting, so maybe next week, but confirm that. Just don't miss that. And finally, in our builders, recognizing staff at this time of year is so hard because there's so many amazing things happening. Like I mentioned, choir and art and social justice and everything. But what struck me after our emergency at Pali a few weeks ago was not only that the teacher whose classroom was directly impacted really seemed to have just done everything right? She immediately contacted who she was supposed to contact. Having spoken with students in the class, she stayed very calm. She escorted them to another place. She carried on with the day. I think when you talk about some kids that were traumatized, the kids in the class that was directly impacted, I think were not very traumatized by it because of the way she handled it. It was just, she really kept them calm and focused. And at the same time, she then contacted all of us to say, I really want to thank the Pali admin for how they handled it and how they supported me and how they reacted quickly and how they kept the students safe. So I really just want to acknowledge the entire Pali staff, especially the teacher who I'm just not going to name given the situation, and really thank them for all of their work. And I'm glad it always gives us an opportunity for continuous improvement and with looking at how that was handled, where there was room for improvement, because there always is, that'll happen and it'll be even better next time. So thank you. Sorry, that was long.
I'm going to go really fast because we're all really tired. But I did want to follow up on the celebration of arts education. I come from a family of artists and art educators, so this is near and dear to my heart for sure. And I just read a fantastic New York Times article recently about the value of arts education to student development. And a quote from the article that I loved is, arts education is still perceived as an add-on rather than an essential field creating essential 21st century skills that are defined as the 4 C's of collaboration, creativity, communication, and critical thinking. So I wanted to take this opportunity to call out Kelly Martin, PAUSD's coordinator of visual and performing arts. She is incredible. Since our last board meeting, I attended with both my parent and board hats on. my daughter's 5th grade band concert at Green, which I have to admit I was dreading. I was tired. And honestly, at this point in my career as a mother of 4 children, sorry kids, the performances all kind of blend together and they've lost some of their luster. But not this one. Here's the thing, it was spectacular. I don't know if any of you have ever had a chance to see the 3 middle school band teachers do their thing, but they are unbelievable. It's like, it's miraculous. Just go watch them, just for fun, for real. It was spectacular. And I was filled with gratitude the whole time that my children are going to school in a district that invests and believes in the importance of arts education. And we're so lucky to have Ms. Martin at the helm. So that is my build up for May. I'm done.
Mr. Collins.
I apologize, from the sublime to the ridiculous. I have a committee report. The City School Liaison Committee met, this is probably now 2 or 3 weeks ago. And I'd say the main messages to take away is that the council members expressed the desire to work more closely, though not a lot of specificity on what. Though I expect that Carberley is on their mind, and as Ms. DeBrienza pointed out, it looks like that's going to be agendized, I think, on the 15th. Yeah, on the 15th. And so it'll be interesting to see what they have to say there. I'd be remiss not to share, there was a narrative at the meeting that I thought was inaccurate, and I mention it because I think we should probably we should recognize that the narrative exists, and we should probably strive to correct it. Both of the council members who are on the committee in sharing comments basically said directly that, it was a shame that in the past the district had been less than stellar in its cooperation with the city, and how nice it was that things were somehow gotten better. And I just, I've been on the board now, this is my 7th year. 6.5. And I've followed board affairs for a fair amount longer, and I'd say that was an unfair characterization. I think the district has, the boards both prior to ours and I think the current one, attend really closely to what the interests are of our students and try to make sure they're well represented, and I think have worked admirably with the city. Now, particularly around Coverly, our views have changed over time as our circumstances has changed. The district underwent 25 years of growth, and people expected that to continue, and now we're going in the other direction. So our view toward building and land have changed. But I think it's, especially since there are a number of new council people, I think if we have opportunities to inform them about the history and the context around the relationship between the city and the schools, I think that would be useful, because I think a narrative that seems to be getting established is that, I put it simply, city good, schools bad. And I just think that's not, as I gently reminded our colleagues at the meeting, and I hope we'll gently remind our colleagues as you run into them, that's not really right. And we try to say nice things about our colleagues at the school, at the city. I certainly do, and I'm sure my colleagues do as well. And I hope they'll continue to do the same. So that's my report.
Thanks. Okay. Students, anything else? All right, if that is all, meeting is adjourned.